Good evening, everybody. You're very welcome. Episode 36 of Words on Whiskey. And we've a guest who normally is on the other side of the chair asking the questions. So we turn the tables on him. So I think everybody will be very familiar with his podcast, Whiskey Chats. And let's just bring him in and get straight to it. Laurie, good evening. You're very welcome. I'm keeping as well as can be with all that's going on. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad you managed to turn the tables on me.
Yeah, well, you owe me one. But so you had me on a long time ago now, actually. And you survived. The podcast didn't go down the Swanee after that.
Look, it took a dip that week, all right, but we brought it back.
Laurie, it appears like you've been on the scene for a very long time. And in fact, in terms of podcasting, you only started last March.
Last March, Paddy's Day, 17th. Serge, I took my first drink of whiskey 2.5 years ago. That was it.
Yeah, so a newcomer to, well, relatively, but you didn't do things by halves.
No, I kind of, that's a fault or a plus of mine that I can only do things times 10.
Yeah. Well, look, tell us a little bit firstly about where you are now and where you grew up and a little bit about your career in the army, because you spent you're 19 years in the Defence Forces,
19,
serving the country.
Absolutely. Before I start, can I pour a drink? Actually,
let's do that. I'll
share a drop with you. I've got 3 lined up for this evening. I picked them, and do you know what I'm going to start with? I'm going to start with Brendan Carty's fantastic poaching. That's what I'm going to start with.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Well, look, I'm looking forward to his release coming out, the Cougar.
Yeah. In my lovely new snazzy Olaf glass.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. That glass just looks amazing.
They're fantastic. This German producer hand makes them, hand blows them, the whole shebang. They come with a lovely little tasting lid and all. But they're absolutely fantastic. A group of us put in a big order there a couple of weeks back, thanks to Dan Pennington spotting them. And my God, they're just absolutely my favorite glass at the moment.
Yeah, and you were telling me there's no weight in them. They're not that heavy. They look as if they should be.
I think it's because they're not lead crystal. I think that's what it is.
Right. Yeah.
So, we're used to lead crystal, but they're very, very light, but they're spectacular looking. They're absolute works of art,
I do like a stem on a glass, but the twist on them is very unusual as well.
Yeah. There's another version there as well with twists in it and stuff. It's called the thistle glass. But they're just something unusual, something not you can't buy just over the.
Yeah. Well, Germany seems to be one of the homes of actually producing glass.
Okay.
So a lot of the glassware comes from there or Eastern Europe, but. Well, look, I'm actually having a sexton myself, so I'm easing myself in and
lovely.
Sláinte, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks very much for catching me. Appreciate it.
So look, tell us a little bit about yourself, because obviously we're very familiar with you through your podcasts, and we'll come and talk about those in a while. But
Cork man, of course. Grew up in Cork, joined the Defence Forces when I was 20. They're 19 and a half years now. Had a great old time. Really enjoyed my career there.
Where were you based? Were you stationed in Ireland, or were you all over the world?
So I'm based in Collins Barracks. I actually trained in Collins Barracks, and I've been stationed in Collins Barracks. I've been all over the place on courses or exercises. I've 5 overseas missions as well done, to Liberia, Chad, Lebanon, and Syria.
Wow. I'm sure there are some things there that have changed your life as well, no doubt.
Amazing experiences, to be honest with you. A lot of the thing I find with overseas missions is the perspective it gives you. You get to see that other side when you're patrolling war-torn countries, we'll say. We normally don't go into a country if it's actively at war, but we'll go in and we'll see the aftermath. Well, I have seen the aftermath, and that gives a good perspective. It makes you appreciate what you have at home.
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. I mean, some of the stuff you must see is life-changing and heart-wrenching, I'm sure.
You see a few sad scenes, all right. But sure, like, it's kind of the soldier's way as well. Like, you're not going to talk yourself up, or you're not going to say that you've been there and done that.
Yeah.
It's just not part of the culture there, I suppose. In the Defence Forces. But you had some great experiences, to be honest with you.
And what made you want to join the army, if you don't mind me asking?
A good straight and narrow path.
Right.
Bit of
Did
discipline.
You need it?
I did. Bit of jackalad, but no, I joined, and to be honest with you, it was one of the best moves I ever made. It really did put me in the right path, give me huge experiences, massive confidence. Massive amount of skills as well. The courses you get to do through the military are fantastic, and it's all about developing leadership. It's all about developing skills, mental fortitude, physical fortitude, of course, and it's
Not an easy path, though, I'm sure.
It's not an easy path, but I can see the advantage of countries where you do have to do your 2 or 3 years in. It does really focus and help straighten young people and give them a good base, to kind of go from.
Yeah, it's not that long that military conscription was required in a lot of countries. So we kind of, and I suppose the idea of people joining the FCA, that's kind of died down quite a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, the Reserve Defence Forces, as it's called now, a bit of focus has been taken off it, all right. It is something that I would like to see being redeveloped, maybe refunded, personally. It is a good, the people in the Reserve Defence Forces are passionate, they really put their heart into the exercises or their weekly meets. When at the moment I'm involved with the COVID response, so I'm coordinating minibuses in Cork, going out and collecting people who have been assigned to us by the HSE who need testing, who can't make it to the testing centre themselves. And we've got some Reserve Defence Forces who volunteered of their own time to come in and help, either in the coordination centre or out driving and doing shotgun in the buses as well. So they're a very enthusiastic bunch, and they should really be. They should,
Well, they're on the front line, as are you.
Yeah. I'm in an office, and I'm not going to say I'm on the front line. The lads in the buses are doing God's work. I'm just taking the calls and emails and tasking and launching and coordinating and making sure that we get as many patients tested as we can during the day.
Yeah. Are we starting to see the light? Do you think now, Laurie?
I won't even comment on that. I'm not an expert. I think the vaccination rollout that's our panacea. That's our holy grail, I think.
Yeah. Well, hopefully now they'll accelerate the rollout and give a bit more clarity. I know I have elderly parents waiting, and they still haven't heard anything. So that's a difficult situation compared to what's happening in the UK, where they seem to be flying through them, or some other countries.
Did I see 18 million, I think, today?
Wow.
I'm getting that number wrong. I think it's 18 million already vaccinated or have their first shots anyway in the UK. So they're ploughing on, and we need to follow suit, all right?
What's been the impact on you, Laurie, personally?
To be honest with you, I find lockdown 3 very difficult for everybody. I see it in a lot of my friends, colleagues. The uncertainty, being locked, the restriction, the lack of social interaction. My podcast, starting my podcast when I did. I literally started the podcast at the beginning. I think we were locked down 2 days and my first episode went out, But I've thrown myself into the whole whiskey world massively in the past 12 months. And it's been a huge, huge boost. And I've made really, really close, long time friends in the whiskey in the whiskey community just in the last 12 months. People are really craving interaction, and the online tastings and the tweet tastings and the Twitter tastings and all these bottle share groups and all these things that people can do at a distance have just been an absolute savior for me anyway. They really have.
Tell me, how did you become interested in whiskey? What is it that draws you initially? What was the initial draw?
The initial draw, I came back from an overseas mission in Lebanon. And when I was out there, I got a phone call from my sergeant major, and he said, I may have a job for you when you come home. I went, right. I thought I was getting caught for something. And he said, Joe is leaving as a bar manager above the barracks in one of the messes. I'd like you to come and take over. I said, I've never pulled a pint in my life. He said, no, it's a bar manager. We're managing the accounts and that. So I came back, took my leave, came in, took over the bar, and realised that we were missing a trick. I said, it's a private members club essentially, so we don't have to charge retail prices and all the rest of it. So he said, I think we could get a few extra bottles of whiskey here, and I think the lads would be able to try different whiskies at a reduced cost, because it's a private club. And it kind of spiraled from there. First week I had 10 bottles, and within 6 weeks I think we were on 16 new bottles. And he said, right, I need to start learning about this and getting a bit more knowledgeable. So I joined the Cork Whisky Society. Yeah. And that just launched it. I just fell in love with the whole culture and the people involved and the spirit itself. There's such history, and there's such. It's not like drinking vodka. I mean, I'm sure if we're in Russia, there's some great history in vodka, but in Ireland, we have this rich, deep history that is entwined in rural life, in city life, in all our communities, in family events, in the fabric of Irish society. And it's that and poaching, and I think we're really missing a trick with poaching.
I think its time will come. I'm hoping it will. There are people like Brendan and
Dave Mulligan in
pushing it,
absolutely flying the flag for years. And you've got Michael above in Boyle Distillery in Donegal. I spoke to him during the week as well. And you've got Paddy O'Greelish in Mickle producing poaching.
That's right. Well, producing whiskey.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is indeed. I don't know if he wants to talk about that just yet, but
probably not yet. I don't think they're officially launched yet, anyway. But
no, but look, there's some really exciting things going on in even the smaller distilleries that would be traditionally associated with gin production. They're also now starting to lay down. I know one distillery who has one still. They're laying down whiskey. They're just running it back through the still,
Sure.
So everyone is looking at the whiskey at the moment and seeing the potential and the huge surge in interest in Irish whiskey, not just in Ireland but worldwide.
Yeah, absolutely. What is it then that captures your imagination about it most? Is it the history? Is it the taste? Or is it, I know the Cork Whisky Society are a particularly passionate group of people there that are hugely into their whiskey, massively.
Yeah. No, I think the Cork Whisky Society definitely takes pride. It was Eric Ryan was the big driver of opening older bottles at a committee level for the Cork Whisky Society, and I think it's even part of our mission statement on our website. That we search for, we find older bottlings, and we open them and see what they were like. The whiskies of yesteryear. I'm interested in a lot of sides of it. I like the history of it. I like the production of it. I like making things. I constantly making things.
I know. Yeah, I know. That's another interest of yours is medals, war medals.
That's right, war medals. Yeah, service medals.
Service medals. Yeah. Has that always been a hobby, or is that something recent?
No, soldiers in any military get presented medals coming back from an overseas mission. In some armies, you get presented medals after completing a particular course. They get medals for service. So in the Irish Defence Forces, other ranks get medals at 10, 15 and 21 years. Officers get them at 15 and 20 years for service, and then reserve get them at 7, 12 and 21 years. So different elements, different branches of the military get them in different stages, but they're all well earned. And when soldiers are on a ceremonial parade, they need to wear those medals mounted on a straight bar at all proper levels and mounted in the correct order with all the right insignia and numerals, all the rest of it on it. I just saw a little opening for a bit of a cottage industry. I like making things. I like just working with my hands. So I kind of turned a hobby into a little cottage industry, and I can pride myself on the medals that I mount and how I do it.
That's what you do. You collect and mount them then, and
or people who come to me, soldiers, serving airmen, serving sailors, and are serving reserve. And I'm starting to get a lot more guards and fire service and ambulance men come to me. Different services have medals as well that they get awarded, for particular events or again service time served. But I just take pride in having them present their symbols of their service and of their achievements as best as I can,
Yeah.
And I don't
all those medals are very well deserved as well. They don't really get enough praise for the work they do. So it's nice to see.
Not in this country, Serge, there's a huge, with the British and the Americans in particular, emphasis on military service. Not so much in this country, but, people, there's many branches of service in this country that are doing, Trojan work, especially at the moment. And, the symbols of that service are their medals, and I try and present them as best I can. But I don't just mount medals for people, because like even my medals, I mean, I've a few medals, but you don't really care about your own medals, you just don't. But who I mount medals for is their children, because it's their children and their grandchildren who will have those medals on the wall. So when I mount medals, that's why I do it with such kind of passion, because I say, right, in 50, 80 years time, they're going to be on someone's wall. By God, they better be good,
Well, look, it is a link to the past for sure. And look, I first-hand experience of the Irish servicemen, particularly, the work they've done in Cyprus, probably from my father. So I know they're hugely revered there, and played a huge role in peacekeeping. So
that's right, yeah.
It's important. But you weren't happy with just learning about the whiskies. You're now secretary of the Cork Whisky Society. Tell us a little bit about the Cork Whisky Society for a start.
The Cork Whisky Society. Okay, it'd be remiss of me to not say it is the best society in Ireland,
Well, of course. And who's to argue? We don't have anybody else here to argue with.
No, I tell you, it's I joined this 2.5 years ago, and my God, it's a passionate bunch of lads, a real hardcore at the centre of the society. We actually had to cut off our limit new members only a couple of weeks ago, because the numbers were kind of getting a bit unmanageable. We actually hit the 200 members mark, which was a huge, we as a committee, we saw it as a huge achievement, that people wanted to be a part of it and join and become members of the Cork Whisky Society. But we're conscious of, at the moment, with there not being in-person tastings, and everything has to be online. So we're doing kind of monthly tastings, and there's a few surprise tastings as well coming up for people that I haven't advertised just yet, but some really good ones. But we're trying to do our best as a committee, kind of behind the scenes, and it's huge logistics, as we all well know who are running tastings. Getting the samples, the bottles, getting them posted out, the labels, just everything is it's huge, and we're kind of conscious that we wanted to give the best experience to as many members as we could. So if our membership kept on spiraling upwards, well, maybe some of the older, more established, more people who have put a lot into the Cork Whisky Society may miss out on more tastings than they would have normally. So we just have to be kind of conscious of membership, but there's a huge interest in Cork.
I mean, the mechanics of actually managing a tasting for 200 people when you do go live, That's going to be a bit of a challenge. Obviously, you won't get 200, but
no, you won't. No, like you've got restrictions with event sizes. With location sizes. We like to do it in bars traditionally. It's a good setting, sets the scene. Good. It just sets the right tone when you're in a bar, as opposed to, we'll say, being in a conference room or a big open space or whatever, the nice intimate venues in the traditional pubs in Cork City and the surrounds. We've had them down in Cronin's as well in Crosshaven.
Very nice.
Jolene Cronin is on the committee as well. She heads up the media subcommittee, but her family own Cronin's Bar in Crosshaven as well. So we try and diversify, and I've had the lads up to the barracks as well. So it was a few great nights up there. We had Ger Buckley doing a full cooperage demonstration. Jeez, we kept in there for 3 hours, lighting barrels and breaking them up and talking about it.
Yeah, he's great though. He's great.
Playing him with some of his Cooper's pros, to keep him going, and actually was great all night.
Well, you see that the one thing about making a society enjoyable is the passion that some people have there, and just disseminates throughout the whole organization, and anything's possible then. So it's great to see, and I know Eric's no longer there on the committee, I don't believe, but he did a fantastic job setting it up. What are you looking to take on now as head of that society? Any changes? Anything new?
Yeah, so Eric did an unbelievable job, absolutely fantastic job. Like, what he built was amazing in Cork. And Eric, as we all know, is one of the head distillers in Middleton Distillery, and recently got a promotion. And with that was less time to spend on extracurriculars. So he had to step down as secretary, and the rest of the committee, don't ask me how, but asked me if I'd step up. I did. But the legacy, like, I feel massive pressure trying to keep that legacy that Eric built, and the reputation that he built with the Cork Society. He's an absolute master at sourcing the older bottlings, and knowing intimately all about them. He's a huge collector as well.
Yeah.
He was a massive resource, and still is. I'll still consult with Eric and ask him questions, because I'm trying to fill his boots
big boots to fill, but I'm sure you'll manage. And I think the big thing there, I mean, you will have obviously the organizational skills as well to bring to that you would have picked up from your military career as well, which should be hugely beneficial as well.
Yeah, like I just set up a few subcommittees and kind of set appointment titles there just recently, and people were happy. They were more than happy. The rest of the committee who do Trojan work, Ray and Connor, Ryan, as you well know, all the lads do fantastic work, and they have all stepped up, taken on responsibilities and roles. And it's working seamlessly at the moment. I mean, the committee's doing huge work behind the scenes.
So you actually have a tasting tomorrow, is it?
We have a Bushmills tasting with Seamus Lowry and with Lauren McMullen, who is one of the new, I don't know if she's that new, but she's one of the brand ambassadors with Bushmills as well. I think she's kind of starting to come more to the fore as well. So the two of them are coming on. We've got a lineup of 7 Bushmills. So we are going to be the first to try the new retail exclusive 10-year-old sherry cask Bushmills. I think it's at 46 or 40, 46, 47, 48%. That'll be in travel retail when we all get back traveling again. We'll be seeing that. We're the first to try it. Brilliant, nice little exclusive. We've got the Acacia Finish distillery exclusive on the tasting. We've got the two Irish Causeway collections, the 2008 Muscatel and 95 Malaga cask. Then we've got the Scotch Malt Whisky Society's 17-year-old Fresh as a Mountain Stream, I think it's called. That was
Were there 2 releases, or there have been more in the past, but recently there were 2 releases, weren't there?
2 releases of the Causeway collection or Scotch Malt?
No, of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society's Bushmills.
Yes.
2 recently, and then, I mean, for anybody that's not a member of a society, I mean, there is no better way to get to taste these whiskies, unless you're in the very fortunate position where you can be shelling out 500 plus for a bottle. Plus, you're going to learn so much from somebody else as well. So the website is what, corkwhiskysociety.com?
Absolutely, yeah. Cork Whisky Society. Just Google it, you'll get straight onto it. We're actually in the middle of revamping, refreshing the website at the moment as well. That's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. So just see if we can improve things and make it, see if we can improve the usability of it. As you well know from running the website, these things always have to be a work in progress.
Yeah. A website never finishes. No, I mean, it's one thing putting it up there, and another keeping it up to date. But it'll be interesting to see what you do now as well there. So where do you get the time then to organize that, keep the bar, and then do your podcasts as well?
Yeah, I've got a very, very, very understanding wife who indulges me in all my passions and is very, very.
There's Connor, not biased at all.
Connor, yeah, probably, yeah. Connor Rain again, just another Trojan worker on the committee. Fantastic. Yeah. I always Connor's one of those people. He's like JP. He's like he's a rock of sense.
Yeah. It's great that you have that resource there, though, as well.
Yeah.
But saying that you've taken it upon yourself, you've done the IBD successfully. Well done in such a short period of time. That's amazing.
Thank you very much.
You've done the WSET level 2.
Yes, with Nick Ryan, absolutely. Yeah, I'd recommend that to everyone. That's a fantastic course. And people are missing the trick as well with the WSET level 2. If you're in the industry, you can get subsidized by the Restaurant Association of Ireland through the SkillNet program.
That's right.
You should really look at anyone who's a kind of a bartender or anyone in the industry should really look at that WSET level 2 course. And just look into the SkillNet subsidies there. It's fantastic to get done. And Nick is so knowledgeable.
Look, it's the passion and the delivery that he puts behind it is just amazing. So and I know he's helped a lot of people behind the scenes even to get their exams.
Yeah.
So I think he's talking about doing level 3 soon as well.
He is. He is. Yeah. I got a few texts to write. Would I be interested? But I just bloody started the IBD General Certificate in Brewing there a couple of weeks back. So I've taken that on. I think the exam's in May. So I'm not going to get to do the level 3 just yet, but maybe this summer, I think.
Yeah. What's the IBD given you? What's the benefit been to you in terms of tasting whiskey, sharing your knowledge with others? What does it give you that you think you may not have had otherwise?
Well, I tell you what it's given me, and it's a surprising thing. The WSET and the IBD have both given me a love of other spirits.
Yeah.
I have, I don't have anything there, but I've developed quite a little grow for mezcals.
I was going to say that was one of the ones that surprised me, and there was a grappa there as well, and a cognac actually that on level 2 that really, took my attention.
The cognacs are amazing. I did a tasting there with Luke Crowley down in the Celtic Whisky Barn Larder in Killarney. Over Zoom there a couple of weeks back. It was a Cognac Park tasting. Yeah. Oh my God almighty. They had the distiller on, the producer, the owner of Cognac Park. I think he was 3rd or 4th generation owner of the business and the vineyard and the farm. Fantastic. We do kind of get a bit tunnel visioned with the whiskey, but you do need to appreciate whiskey. I think you need to appreciate other spirits.
I think so. I think you need to be able to put it in put it in its place and put it in a category.
You need context, 100%.
Yeah.
The mezcals are fantastic. I mean, they're really, really good, and they're artisanal. They're made in small, local clay stills in Oaxaca, in Mexico, and there's different styles. God, I'm after forgetting it again now.
Well, look, I mean, there's as many varieties of cognac and mezcals as there are whiskey.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Remiss to overlook them. I think. I always thought that understanding wine is a huge advantage as well. The process of making wine and
Yeah.
what it does.
Wine,
There's so many fortified spirits that are basically fortified wines.
Wines are lovely, but wines give me a headache, so I don't even go there.
It's usually the way around. Well, no, a good spirit won't give you a headache.
A good spirit's a very clean. It's a very clean spirit, a very clean liquid. You know.
Yeah.
It's a very clean solvent, is what it is.
Yeah.
And if you hydrate yourself and you don't mix it with a whole load of sugar, you're not going to get the after effects. I mean, I can often enjoy on a night out, instead of having a lash of pints like traditionally we do in Ireland, I won't go near the pints anymore. I'll have 5 or 6 neat whiskies, drink maybe a bit of water as well on the side, and I'm happy out. And I wake up fresh as daisy the next morning. I just pints.
Well, speaking of another whiskey, I'm going to dig in here and have another one. I'm going to have another go at this McConnell's. I don't know if you've had a chance to try it.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and at a very good price, I think, for what it is. So
I saw I saw one of their brand ambassadors, the young lady. She was on with Barry on the Friday night.
Sarah, yes.
Sarah, is it? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So they're pushing the McConnell's brand now at the moment, all right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult time for them, I suppose. They came out really when COVID started, so Sarah's done a fantastic job pushing that brand. And, to be honest with you, I don't know how she does it in the circumstances that we're in, but still. No, I mean, this is a nice blend. It's at a good price. The bottle looks amazing. I don't know if you've seen the bottle.
Yes,
it's very much playing back the old Belfast name. So
has it got lovely glass ribbing as well in the glass?
It has ribbing at the bottom, and it has a lovely brass plate. So I don't know if I'm sure you've seen it.
Okay,
yeah.
That's a lovely old traditional shit. Well, for my second drop, I'm going to keep a Cork, and I'm going to have a West Cork, very rare.
Is that the black one, the charred?
No. What this is, so Bradley's, Michael, who owns Bradley's in North Main Street in Cork City, released a single cask there before Christmas. It says on the bottle 170 bottles, but he actually got 220 out of the cask. And I think he sold out. In around 4 weeks. He was expecting to have them for a year or two, and them to be a constant draw into the shop. But it's fantastic.
It's a single cask strength, or is it bottled?
It's a single cask strength. 4 years in bourbon, 3 years in rye. 7-year-old West Cork single malt. It's absolutely fantastic drop. €75 they were retailing for. I grabbed an extra bottle for myself just so I wouldn't run out, and I may or may not have grabbed 2 bottles as well for an upcoming tasting with the Cork Society as well.
So that's a big advantage you have there of being able to get some bottles for the society.
Yeah, the nosiness is fantastic. The rye, I think it's a Michter's rye. I was fishing for 3 years. Oh my god, it's absolutely
okay. And does the spice come through?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you up a sample. I can't recommend it. I'm after sending half of that bottle up the country in samples, I think, at this stage, because
Okay, well, I have that on public record now that you'll send a sample up, Laurie. So I you won't disappoint me. But
I'm good at that stuff.
Obviously, you get to try an awful lot of whiskies, and it's a question I get asked all the time, Laurie. What's your favorite? And I'm very reluctant to answer that question.
I can answer that question.
You can you?
I can answer that question. Marbone Lane. The Irish Whiskey Society's Marbone Lane.
Yeah.
That's just a special drop in my eyes.
Yeah. I've 2.5 bottles of that.
Oh.
Somewhere there. So no, it's in my top 3 for sure.
Yeah.
And it did win the best whiskey of the year, I think, in the Irish Whiskey Awards 3 or 4 years ago.
It was best single cask.
Best single cask, yeah.
I think so, yeah. That's a phenomenal drop. I'm going to hold my hands up here now on something because it's funny. I'm going to have to laugh at myself. I did a podcast before Christmas, and I recorded a podcast on the story of the Marbone Lane bottling, because it was a great story.
I remember that. Yeah, I caught that.
No, you didn't.
Are you sure? You didn't post or anything about it? No.
No, I told you about this on a phone call.
Maybe you told me. Yeah.
and I got Finan
Oh,
on,
that's right,
because
with
Finan, Peter White, and
Yes.
Willie Murphy, and I got the three lads on. We had a great old chat for an hour and a half, and shared a few whiskies, and we shared a few drops of Marbone Lane, and it was a grand. I'm going to release that now first week of January, and I deleted it over Christmas.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah,
It is a nice. But I mean, that was the centenary bottle. I have to say, I'm a massive fan of that. Massive fan of that. And look, it just shows what's possible.
Yeah.
Some of those old recipes are fantastic, and hopefully we'll start seeing a few more of them. But
it just shows you what's lurking in the Dungourney warehouses and in the Middleton warehouses.
Yeah.
10 miles, literally 10 miles down the road from me. That's all. It's my local distillery, and people forget that Middleton is the Cork Whisky Society's local distillery. It's the closest distillery we have. Now there is a new distillery, Rebel Distillery, on the Keys.
Yes. Have they actually released anything yet? I know they were.
I know
he's starting.
He's starting whiskey, all right, but what he started was Maharaja Gin. It's an Indian name. I think it's Maharaja Gin. I'm sure I'm after butchering that, but he's actually an ex-member of the Cork Whisky Society. I never had the pleasure of meeting him, but it's crazy the amount of distilleries that are just popping up all over the place.
Oh yeah, and certainly the southwest seems to be a hub of activity at the moment. Several in Killarney, around Dingle, around Cork. It's just.
I think,
and then Donegal, of course, has gone a bit nuts
Donegal,
as well.
I think Donegal now needs to up its poaching game and needs to start using that native history to the county of poaching distillation, and really start driving that spirit forward. We've two indigenous spirits in this country. We've got single pot still whiskey, and we've got poaching. And I think Ireland is missing a trick with its clear spirit, its native clear spirit. And it doesn't have to be clear, actually, because Mulroy Bay also.
No, it can be barrel aged, yeah.
Yeah, 10 weeks, according to the technical file, can be aged for. But the amount of Smirnoff vodka and Gordon's gin sold in this country as mixers, and we have our own native clear spirit, white spirit in the country that we could be buying, drinking, and supporting, or using to support our local businesses and distilleries that are cropping up everywhere. Because we've 39 official whiskey distilleries, God knows how many gin distilleries.
I think plus another almost 20 planned in the planning, or close to being.
And these distilleries can't sell liquid legally for 3 years as whiskey, but they can start producing poaching almost immediately, and most of them are jumping on the gin bandwagon. But I think we're missing a trick with the poaching. I think they have the equipment, they have the ingredients, they have the knowledge to produce poaching, and I think the Irish public need to embrace that. I think and maybe start supporting one of our native spirits.
Yeah. Oh, I do think there's a lot of work to be done actually on the poaching side in terms of
the
technical file.
But again, Dave Mulligan and Jarlath and Brendan Carty and Audio Grealish and all those lads, they've been flying the flag now for a while, and I think we all need to start beating that drum as well.
Yeah. I do think it will find its time and its market, but I do think there are issues there around the technical file that need to be resolved. So hopefully they will be. I know they're going to be looking at technical file for poaching as well. So hopefully that'll be good news for people.
But I mean, I hate to concentrate on one, but what Brendan can produce in this bottle for, I think it's 38 euros, I think, for 500 ml. What he can produce working within the restrictions of the technical file is it's phenomenal. I'll drink that neat all day long instead of a whiskey. All night long I'll drink that.
Well, look, I mean, the work Dave Mulligan has done on creating some fantastic poaching cocktails, because that's probably the deliberate. Not many people are going to be drinking poaching neat, but in terms of in a cocktail or maybe even with a soda, I don't know if it works with a soda, but it's certainly something that has its place.
This is what I'm saying. I mean, we're people are going out to bars and pubs and clubs and mixing vodka and gin all over the place, and they could be mixing poaching just as well, and it's a better quality spirit as well. If you're going to want to call a spade,
Yeah, no, but I mean, one of the problems with poaching is that there is a lot of misinformation about poaching as well out there, and that's one thing that needs to be addressed. And I think the guys are doing a good job on that. There's still room to do, but hopefully, and look, ultimately, we'd love to say more whiskey as well. But I mean, what do you make about the state of Irish whiskey at the moment in terms of so many distilleries, all looking for something innovative, all looking for their own unique selling point, all spinning a story. Some of them are real and some of them aren't. Well, what do you make of it?
I think it's fantastic. I spoke to Ralphie Mitchell last night. I did a podcast be coming out next week, and for anyone who lives under a rock, Ralphie is check out Ralphie Mitchell. He's fantastic. His YouTube reviews and his extras videos are absolutely legendary. But I thought that Scotland had 200 distilleries. He told me last night it's in excess of 400 distilleries in Scotland. We've got 39 with 15 or 20 in the planning, and a few gin, obviously, distilleries then thrown in to boot as well, But we're not there yet, like we're still finding our feet. We're still in the fledgling. We're still just, we're still on the ground here. Like we haven't even got off the ground yet. There's a lot of look, inevitably mistakes are going to be made. And we all know the missteps from some brands. They stick out a mile, but that's inevitable in any. I hate to call it a fledgling industry because it's not. But what it is it's an old industry with a whole load of new entrants into it in the past decade. Because before there was only the two or three, the two initially, and then Cooley. But it is still a very young industry, or young players in the industry, and I think it's so exciting. I mean, I think in Ireland we do get caught up in our own little bubble. We think we're great, but on the world stage we're nothing yet. We're nothing we're absolutely
no. I mean, if you take, I think Irish whiskey is set to overtake Scotch in the US in the next few years. But if you take Irish whiskey on a world stage, maybe somewhere between, I've heard numbers of 4%, I've heard 8%, but I know in Asia we're less than 1%, and obviously that's a huge market that I know everybody wants to tap into.
Well, India has India are the largest consumers of whiskey in the world. I mean,
by a factor of 4 or 5.
India has 4 times the US population. 4 times the US population. Marky McCauley informed me the other day. Those markets, markets are ripe for the picking. I understand that they may not have the disposable income levels that maybe the Irish distilleries are looking for their bottles of whiskey, but I mean, as revenue streams, for entry level whiskies, and sell them the story. I think Irish whiskey has huge things to offer on the world stage,
but I do think I do think Irish whiskey is very much targeted at the premium side of the market as well. So I mean, that's a difficult market to get into India, although they're, there's not much of a middle class. It's lower class and upper class. So the spending power is difficult. But I notice that China, of course, is the next big one as well. And look, hopefully things will happen there.
What do you make of the new law changes in Japan for their whiskey?
Well, I think they had a real danger of losing out going forward if they didn't set their bed in line, So people have been talking about it for a while. Saying that, it didn't stop people paying crazy prices for whiskey, for Japanese whiskey, and seeing it as a very sought after product. But yes, look, there was the danger of it being a caricature of itself in terms of, what really defines Japanese whiskey. I mean, ultimately, the majority of Japanese whiskey is made in a Scotch style in Japan. Obviously, they have their own take in it now, and they're going to be able to put their own stamp on it with the new file. And much as we can put our own stamp on what we produce here. So,
I think it's a huge leap forward for them. Japanese whiskey, I don't know if I've even tried 2 or 3 Japanese whiskeys because of the lack of clarity. It just hasn't appealed to me,
Yeah.
When you don't know what you're drinking, is it Scotch? Is it Japanese? It's so messy. The message coming from there, I just have never even ventured into it.
Yeah. No, I've tried a few that are reputable and you know what you're getting, but and they are fantastic. But there's an awful lot out there that you don't know what you're drinking, to be honest.
Yeah.
And you could argue the same here. Sometimes you wonder what you are drinking.
Yeah, that's a lot of from non-Irish people. That's what I hear a lot. The whole Irish distilleries buying in Cooley. This is what I hear constantly on from internationals. That they don't know whether they're drinking that distillery's spirit or drinking Cooley's spirit. They all think everything's Cooley, not realizing that we've kind of moved past the 3 distillery business model in this country, and we've now 39 functioning distilleries, and there's West Cork as well, who are also selling on a grander scale, and Great Northern, who are doing huge production for the industry, for brands to get them up off the ground and selling their spirit. But yeah, we do really need to get that message out internationally that it's not just all rebottled Cooley. There's plenty of other distilleries here now, and our industry is much larger.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I did pick up on was the fact that Martin yesterday was saying that a lot of people weren't aware of pot still, and of course, I was interested to hear your comments about pot still being our definitive Irish whiskey to some extent. And certainly historically, there's an awful lot of pot still, but we do also make fantastic single malts, and we do make fantastic single grains. But if you were to tie back historically, our whiskey tradition, pot still would be up there. And look, all these new brands, it's fantastic to see. They very much are on the coattails of the great work that Irish distillers, I think, have done in terms of 100%. Defining a category that could have been lost. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, what one of the issues I think with having so many distilleries is, it's a psychological phenomenon as well. The more choice you give somebody.
Are you saying there's too many distilleries in Ireland? Is it?
No. The fact that there are so many. Right, 39.
But there's 400 in Scotland, and it's
I understand that as well, Laurie. But how many of them are sustainable? How many of them are doing well? The other thing is, when a customer is offered too much choice, you see these in surveys, I think, all over the place. Like, if insurance companies are well known for this, if they offer their customer too many pension options, they'll end up taking none because the person isn't sure which is the best one or which is the one that suits them best. All of a sudden, if you have a lot of whiskies, now look, the connoisseur is always going to be enthusiastic and going to know what each one is, and that's part of the fun, is discovering something that you fall in love with, and it doesn't have to be one. But I'm just wondering how that will be managed when we have 60, 70, 80, 100 distilleries.
It's going to be 20, 30 years before that question can be answered, because what we're going to need is far more mature stock on the market. In my opinion, that's what the Scotch whiskey industry has. It has huge amounts of older stock from obscure distilleries. You still have distilleries you still are discovering the names of, coming up with 26-year-old, 28-year-old. You're not going to go on who, and it's their own spirit.
Are we doing ourselves a disservice then, do you think? Or are distilleries potentially doing themselves a disservice by releasing stock at 3 years of age?
I think that
Four.
I think Ecklandville have done it the best. I think Jarlath and Shane above have done it the best, and all the rest of them. They have released sourced whiskey under an older Belfast brand, Dunville's, and they're holding their own stock back for their own brand, Ecklandville. And I prefer personally that model.
Well, they do have stock. I mean, they have been at it for 7 years, so they do have stock there, and they're just waiting for it to be ready.
I'm crossing my fingers that that's going to happen in the next 12, 18 months. That's the rumblings I'm hearing anyway. You know, it'll be great to see some Ecklandville stuff on the market. You know, and I talked to Jared about that as well, what I thought they were going to do was to stop the Dunville's brand. I just presumed they were going to, and concentrate then on the Ecklandville. No. They're going to keep the Dunville's going, keep that project going, keep that brand alive. But what they've managed to do with the stock that they've bought in under the Dunville's brand is amazing, I think, I mean, I think it's some of the best whiskey released in the past 12, 18 months. Those 18-year-olds and the new 20-year-olds and the 12-year-old cask drinks that they I think the batch 4 is due this Friday. I think it's this Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. And plus they have another bottling of their own coming out as well.
And their own, what's that one?
I think... I don't want to say because I don't think it's quite right, but there is something I think in the pipeline.
Cool.
I actually saw a bottle of it, and it looks impressive. But I mean, they're not the only one. There are other brands out there, releasing source whiskey. I was looking at, Powerscourt, obviously. Connacht Distillery I think they had one of the better releases last year with the Amarone finished.
That was nicer, actually.
Yeah. A €50.
Yeah. No, I like what Dave Stapleton's doing up with the Connacht brand. It's fantastic stuff, and he's I think he's got maybe 4 brands on the go as well, with the gins and the vodkas and the this and the that he's got going. He's really, really going for it.
Yeah. They released that Ballyhoo as well.
That's right.
Single grain. I like that. I'm a big fan of single grain. I know. The experts won't deem it complex enough or layered enough, but for me, I think a good single grain can be a fantastic drink.
Do you know, it's funny, isn't it, that Aeneas Coffee come up with the continuous still in the late 1800s or mid 1800s, and it's still controversial to this day. The silent spirit, as the Irish whiskey barons called it. Single grain whiskey. It's funny, it's funny how kind of some people can take it, some people can leave it. Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think I've tasted some single grain whiskies. Actually, I tasted one there at the launch of the Middleton Very Rare. I think it was a 26-year-old single grain. Absolutely fantastic.
From Middleton?
Yeah. Oh. Well, I mean, they had it in their stores. Yeah. Okay. I mean, they produce grain, obviously. But a 26-year-old, fantastic stuff. You've got the Teeling single grain. There are others as well.
Yeah, the Powerscourt releasing some very nice single grains as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, look, when the person there knows what he made 12, 14, 16 years ago. I mean, they're single grain. I don't know if you tried. Did you get to try the 13-year-old single grain that they did for Fox's?
James Fox's one. Yeah, no, I didn't try that.
That's spectacular. Yeah, really. Yeah, it's expensive, but I mean, it's spectacular.
That's what I was going to say. That's the reason they didn't try it, because what was it?
€140, maybe if it was more.
For a 13-year-old single grain, it's up there. It's up there, Maybe that's one for a future bottle share, actually. Maybe not be for a bottle share, right?
Yeah. Tell me, and I suppose you don't have to answer this, but the links between the different societies that the Cork Whisky Society has, is that something that you're looking to reinvigorate, let's just say?
The links. So you mean, do we speak to each other as society?
Speak to each other, perhaps collaborate, share resources, possibly arrange joint
I
events?
I definitely see. Uh, I have in the back of my head a plan, and usually when I bloody think of an idea, I kind of go for it. But I do see some when this all unlocks, getting the societies together for one big, what would you call it, convention, for
Yeah.
want of a better word. I mean, what you're talking about doing is bringing the most enthusiastic people in the whiskey in the whiskey community together at one location, and I think fantastic things can be done. I know we have the whiskey lives and all that, but just an event where all us amateurs can come together, and because we're all friends well, I'm not on Facebook myself, but we're all friends on social media,
Yeah.
and we all know each other. We know the names, we know the faces. And we're on the WhatsApp groups, and we're on this and that. And it's a very small community in Ireland, Sergio's.
Is it
That's the
competitive
one
though?
thing.
Is there
I don't.
competition between the societies to outdo each other in terms of?
No, I don't see that. Now, I've got to speak to most of the lads in the societies through the podcast, so I've got that unique perspective in that. I've talked to the lads in the Aviators, I've talked to Val in Waterford. I ring Brian Green on a regular basis, asking his advice, or trying to include him in things, or just speaking to him. Spoke to him today, in fact. But and even the lads in the 1875 whiskey club from the
The
fire
fire
brigade.
brigade. Yeah, that's fantastic club.
Freaking brilliant, and I've even gotten contacted by two individuals in Cork who are looking to set up localized whiskey societies in Cork here. They're cropping up everywhere, and I know that Maurice O'Connell was talking about a Killarney Whiskey Society there not too long ago, and I think the biggest trick being missed is Galway. I think somebody needs to pull the finger out and get a society up and going.
Look, I think Galway had the opportunity with the Galway Whiskey Trail, I think, to do something rather special. I don't know what happened, but
yeah, Cyril Briscoe. Cyril Briscoe, that was more of a commercial venture to get a kind of
well, there were 10, 11, 12 bars. There were a lot of bars in it.
Yeah.
But
it was
look, I think it'll happen.
Guild.
If anything, actually, setting up a society is probably easier now in COVID. You don't have the big logistics of finding a place. Okay, you have to work out how you're going to distribute as well, but it might be a great. I mean, I heard of the Mayo Whiskey Society, the Sligo Whiskey Society,
out of Connolly's in Sligo town. Is it? It's like I could be butchering that.
Yeah,
now.
Connolly's one, and then there's one in Mayo. John Burke, something. Can't remember. It's a double barrel, but John Burke set up one up there as well. So, look,
and I know there's a Loud Society as well knocking around.
That's right. Yeah,
out of Dundalk, I think, and there's also Carlow Society rearing its head. I know that John Barron had something going down in Wexford as well not too long ago, and
that's right. Yeah,
actually, just maybe giving a shout out. I might give a shout out to John Barron as well. I think everyone has him in their thoughts with the fire that happened at the Skyline Ground there 2 weeks ago. It's spread to part of his property, and it looks like there's big consequences for him anyway. But I think we should all be kind of throwing an old thought John Barron's way, and I think we all can't wait till he rebuilds and we come down for one big huge hoolie down in the Skyline Ground.
Do you think that's going to happen, Laurie? Do you think now, after a year of getting used, if you can get used to being isolated and being locked up and being in the comfort of your own room where it's not cold and not have to worry about that, do you think it's going to come back to the way it was?
Sergio, I think it's going to come back with bells and whistles on. I mean, what this has shown people is that human interaction, socialization is so important. And I think people are going to appreciate it a lot more now that they've been denied it,
Look, I really hope you're right.
I hate using this analogy, but sometimes you feel like a prisoner, I mean, our society is based around a penal system that restricts independence as the worst punishment that we can put on a person. And that's what's after happening us. That's what's after happening the world as a community, that our independence and our movement has been restricted, and
Look,
that's so unhuman. It's I think it's going to come back with bells and whistles, and we're going to have some great, whoever the party planners are at the moment, or who are getting into that business. I think they're in for some great business in a few months' time. 12 months' time or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, look, I do hope people go out and support the pubs and the societies in their numbers in person.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
I mean, one of the biggest things anybody can lose is their liberty, and people have lost that over the last while. And,
that's it.
The consequences will be seen, I think, in the years to come, but hopefully we'll come back stronger. Hopefully we'll come back.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the podcast.
Before you do that, I'm gonna pour a drop there before we go on.
There you go.
I had three I had three spirits picked out tonight, and I think the belle of the ball that stole the show last year, value for money, was this little beauty that reared her quiet little head, the Ronco 13-year-old.
Oh yeah, the Distillery exclusive, yeah.
€75 for a cask strength Bushmills. We'll call it that.
That's the batch 2 version, isn't it? Because they did 2.
Yes. So they had the 2019, which was a blend, but this is the 13-year-old single malt at cask strength. Was it 58%? It's a 13-year-old.
Still available from their store.
It absolutely is. There's thousands of bottles vatted for the release. And this is the little hidden beauty from last year. A 13-year-old cask strength Bushmills. And we all know what we're paying now for the Causeway collection at auction. And here you go, 75 quid into the lava. Bushmills cask strength. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, look, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and, jump on this, the peated whiskey craze. And
all right.
And I'm going to have myself a Black Pitts.
Very nice.
Has become a staple part of my drinking.
Has it? Have you?
It has, because I tell you, I was never a crazy peated until maybe 5 years ago, and I started having I think Ardbeg, kind of took its place, and I enjoyed it. I wouldn't be an Iodine peated person, but I think Teeling hit the nail on the head with this release. I mean, I know there are other peated whiskies out there, and but I think this is at a price point and an availability point that makes it easily accessible and doesn't alienate people. And for me, I just love to sip on this. I think it's fantastic. And at 65 euro, I think it's a great whiskey.
You can't leave Bill Phil out of that conversation. What Dahi O'Connell has done, helping the resurgence, and also
look, there are so many now on the page.
There is so many. Like I'm trying not to leave.
I mean, Dunville's did their Three Crowns peated release. Obviously, you had the Connemara's, then you had trying to think now which others. But I think
I love that story that John Teeling told in your podcast about the fact that the distiller went on a solo run with the Connemara's, and he only found out about it a few years later. He went, "What are those casks? Oh, well, they're actually peated Irish. What are you on about? How are we going to sell these?" That was a fantastic little nugget.
Well, I do find that people are always looking for the next thing, and it was cask strength for a while, then it was peated. Now it's I don't know what we'll hit next, but
Putching.
Look, the Putching will do well. I do think it's a difficult one. I think it needs a rebrand, and it's a very hard thing to do with small budgets.
Dave Mulligan has 30 Putchings in his bag.
Yeah.
30.
But I mean, that's a difficult thing to hit worldwide. I mean, the Irish market, as we know, is tiny. So for Putching to get good recognition, and the Putchings that you do see abroad are, so poorly branded, and they're a bit of paddywhackery a little bit as well, and they're, not good. I mean, this notion of potato as being, the base of Putching is such a disservice.
Yeah, Putching, like the potato came into Ireland in what the the
It's
late
only for a while as
the
well.
early 19th century, I think, the late 18th century. I mean, poitín was being distilled from cereals for centuries before that, like, you know.
Yeah, but I'll be interested to see what happens. I do think the Belfast coffee, I think
That's a nice one.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go in terms of marketing the poitín. There are a few others as well out there, but yeah, I see John McDougall, or should I say Ian? He's saying there's Paddy Wackery and whiskey also. Of course there is. Yeah,
Never
absolutely.
mind him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Him.
Chancer. Well, look, he had a good release earlier in the year, or last year, should I say, with the Powers cast
There's
strength.
another good release coming from him as well in the next few months that I cannot wait for. But let's not talk about that.
I've heard about that one. All right.
That's to me now the most exciting spirit being released this year. To be honest with you, that's just amazing that they've managed to wrestle that from the bear grips of Middleton Distillery, and it's very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Himself and Eddie Darcy, I should say. It's not just him.
Yeah. Look, I mean, they do have that Friends of Middleton page as well. And is it Cologne Cult they manage as well?
That's right, yeah. He also does the Friends of Brookladdy and Friends of Waterford as well.
Yeah.
He's a busy man, is already.
Now that you have your drink in front of you, I'm going to pick your brains on your podcast. So there's a couple of questions I have, obviously. Firstly, how do you manage now without being able to? Because I know when we spoke and you had me on your show, we met in person because lockdown wasn't in effect at the time. But how are you coping with the lockdown? Is it making life more difficult?
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I'm so sick of Zoom. It's ridiculous. I really, really like going, seeing people in their natural environment, and I've also when I recorded with you, I think you were the first person I recorded on my new little Zoom H1.
I was your guinea pig.
You were my guinea pig. I didn't know if it was even going to work out, but I went away when I started the podcast. What do I need to do? I need to buy the best mics and the best mixing board and the best this and the best that. And I had a nice little €2,000 set up, little mini studio. And then I went away and bought this little dictaphone for, I think it was 30 or 40 euros on eBay. Bought a little €2 muff on the top and another €2 stand to sit in the back tripod. And my God, like they're the most, when I record with that dictaphone, that is the most enjoyable podcast for me. I can walk around. We can, like I did down in Clonakilty, I can walk around to the distillery, and have a chat, or go up to Dalton's and walk around the grain yard and go to the different parts and have the wind going and have the noise of the machines. Or like yourself, come up and Willie Ahern above kindly. Actually, he's lent me the Whiskey Palace above in
I know you had Fionn up there as well.
Yeah, and I also had I actually had himself. I had Willie Ahern as well up there. But he's Jesus, Willie's a little legend. Don't get me started on him. No, he's fantastic in a little gold gem in the whiskey industry. To be honest with you, but those podcasts where I can move around and go from machine to machine and get the noise of the gears grinding like I did above in Brendan's above in Cologne, and it's so enjoyable.
I mean, what is it you look for in a podcast, Laurie? What kind of? I mean, I think we have quite a similar kind of feel for who we like to talk to, but I'd just like to hear from you.
People who intrigue me, people that I can learn from. I hate to say it, but don't throw your PR person at me, I don't want to hear them, I'm sorry, that's not my angle, it's not my interest, I want to hear from the distiller, I want to hear from the delivery driver, I want to hear from the nuts and bolts, I don't want to hear the party line. I like the I like talking to the people on the ground. I really do.
I think you're similar in that you want to talk to people on the front line that are not marketeers and aren't.
Yeah.
They're
I can read the party line. I can read the party line in any website. That's that's boring. I want to. My goal starting the podcast was to educate myself, was to learn. Anyone I can speak to and learn from. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's where my enthusiasm comes out. That's my interest.
Yeah,
that's my motivation.
Well, look, I mean, they're a fantastic set of podcasts, and you've been very helpful to me as well on helping me fix my sound quality, whatever the problems I had. But was it a conscious effort deliberately not to do video?
Yes.
Or is it just that it worked, that it was easier to not have to lug around the whole?
No, I think like even tonight, coming on this, I mean, Jesus, I was knocking about the house for an hour, before I had to go on video. And I know you kind of get nervous as well, maybe, I get nervous enough doing an audio podcast. I just think that the video element, people are a bit more on show. I think that with the audio podcast, you can get that, get a less self-conscious angle from people, when you're speaking to them. I don't like to do an interview. That's why I call it Whiskey Chats. I just want to have a chat with someone, and learn from them. And as we all do on the phone, like I've done to you many a night, late at night. Jesus, I think I've rang you some nights. I don't know why, but I think I rang you like 11:15 at night. I think we spoke to like 12:30 there one night.
I know.
Just
I love our chats. I do. I really. I mean, I learned so much, but it's always great, I think, to get another opinion, and even if it's not in line with what you have, I think that's even more interesting.
Every day's a school day, Sir Joseph, and that's how I treat it. And as long as I'm learning, I'm happy. Or creating. As I said, I'm always making stuff, or the medals kind of scratch that itch for me a lot, But I'm always doing stuff in the background, making stupid little lamps.
Have you always been like that, Laurie, or is it something that developed later on, maybe with the military? Yeah.
No, when I was young, my dad's tools were always rusty because I was up the bloody forest with them building camps, or I was just always tree houses or making things, always making things. Yeah, I like working with my hands, but being a soldier as well is very tactile. It's yes, there's a lot of study in it. Yes, you become a very, very proficient in your craft. I've done many courses in the army that have taught me many things, but I've always kind of I've always gravitated towards the more tactile courses.
Well, I can tell that, Laurie, because I can see that you're very much a big fan of craftsmanship and bespoke and handmade. I mean, even before we were talking about the glass.
This to me is just
enthusiasm.
This to me is heaven, like a hand-blown glass by a German lad who's just created these. And I think he's got like 6 or 8 different designs of whiskey glasses. And he's got Olaf, he's got a section on his website just for whiskey glasses. Now he does other little things as well, but whiskey glasses. And he's just designed these and goes, I think whiskey would be great in this glass, And it's fantastic in this glass, There's many good glasses out there, including Tuath glasses and Glencairns and Copitas. But these things are just a little bit special, the fact that they were handmade and someone put time and effort and actually managed to create this with his hands and his mind.
But I think you kind of put that in the same category as, obviously, I can see you're a big fan of Puccini as well, which is a very much a handcrafted, small distillery-based product. What is it that draws you to those things rather than things that might be more mass appeal?
Quality, everything's quality. I appreciate quality in everything. Clothes, shoes, cars, whiskey glasses, spirit. I spent lockdown 1. I spent 5 or 6 months in lockdown 1 building a sauna out the back.
So Nick was saying, how did that go?
I can't see any comments. Does someone talk? I haven't seen any comments. Sorry, I can't see any comments.
How's the sauna?
All right. Yeah, like I just, I said, right. And one of the little hidden secrets in a military camp overseas is usually there's a engineer's water retention vessel, a swimming pool.
All right, okay.
Like a fire. Yeah. There's always
malting barley in that sauna.
No, I'm not. No, I wouldn't do anything that illegal.
Dual purposed it.
No, I wouldn't. But there's always a sauna in a military camp. There's usually around 8 or 10 saunas, to be honest with you, that have just been knocked up by engineers or by people. And that's one of the advantages that, when you're away for 6 months and say you've been on patrol for the day or you've had a hard day or whatever, to look forward to the sauna at the end of the day. And I kind of got a bit of a graw for it.
Yeah.
So I decided during lockdown when I was at home for the whole time, I kind of built a sauna out of scrap, essentially. But like,
I remember talking to you actually probably after March, and you were saying you thought the lockdown was going to last for a long time. I never saw it coming in to be with us for that long, but
really. I mean, this isn't a short-term thing. It's like, it's great, the UK having 18 million people vaccinated. That's fantastic, and hopefully they'll have 60 million people vaccinated in the next 3 months. That's great. But the rest of the world might only have 5% of their population vaccinated. So what good is it to the UK, This is a worldwide pandemic, and the way I see it, like, until the rest of the countries are up above whatever level the scientists deem safe, we're all still restricted. We're all still going to be, international travel is still going to be not what it was. Migrant workers aren't going to be able to move freely. Industry isn't going to be able to proliferate. Markets aren't going to be able to flourish. I mean, until the world gets a handle of this, it's not going to happen. Like, that's just how I saw it.
Going back to your podcast then, Laurie, when you sit down with somebody, and I have to say, I like them because there's no hiding place on them. There's no pretension about it. And they're incredibly relaxed. To me, they seem as if, you're just sitting back having a chat with an old buddy that you haven't spoken to in a while and just getting to hear from them again. So is that the intention? Even with the introductory music and stuff like that, I feel like taking off my shoes and putting them up on the desk and just chilling.
Well, thanks for the compliment. I really appreciate it. That's the vibe I was kind of going for, because that's what I wanted. I wanted to listen to something like that, so I created it. That was my motivation, as well as learning. So everyone we get on, I feel like I can learn from. But I'm after making some fantastic friendships just by having guests on. I mean, Ian Garrett, friends of Middleton. Myself and Ian must talk for like 3-4 hours a week on the phone.
If Ian gets going, he won't speak to me again now. But I've had
I talked to Ian.
With Ian, all right.
Ian's all right. Ian forgive you. I talk to Ian 3-4 hours a week. I mean, we're constantly just bouncing off each other. Yourself, I ring you every now and then, and have an old chat, and there's loads of lads. But I always laugh. though the first podcast.
Well, Laurie, is that, I mean, there are a lot of people doing podcasts out there now. There's a lot of people blogging. There's a lot of people writing. There's a lot of, and not everybody's so sharing in the information as yourself. I really value your openness with me, and just your encouragement.
Okay, thanks.
I think we do the same for you, but it has it got competitive out there? Is there that element of it out there now?
I've purposefully for my entire life never been on Facebook. I can proudly say I've never had an account. It doesn't interest me. People are constantly kind of prodding at me. Go on Facebook. Look, just have it as a broadcast account, whatever. I don't care enough to go there. Twitter suits me because it's short and sweet. You're very limited. I can I've more muted accounts than accounts that I follow on Twitter.
Right.
It's very, very simple. Just good luck. I like to keep things very simple. And I don't have much tolerance for people's nonsense, Yeah.
I mean, I know it's your podcast as well. There's no frills. It's an honest, straightforward chat that's just intriguing. There's something about not having a picture and a video behind a podcast that intrigues me, and I don't know what it is. I think, like, I've used the analogy before. I think it's almost in a way a black and white photo of a color image. So much is left to your own imagination.
Yeah. Like, I didn't realize it when I started the podcast, but there's an art in a conversation,
Yeah.
Slowly but surely, I'm absolutely nowhere near there, but I'm slowly but surely learning that art. And I get very nervous before any podcast. Like 5 or 6 hours before the podcast, I'm sitting down and I'm trying to work out a little journey for us to go on. I don't script it, but what I do is I sit down and I make up maybe 30 points. Right, these are 30 points.
I have
of
bullet points as well,
yeah.
and they never go by my bullet points. Everything else, like you've sidetracked me so many times here, Laurie, that it's made a mockery of my notes.
That happened to me last night with Ralphie. I had a perfect little path furrowed for us, right? I'm going to guide him down here now with these questions. And I don't think I touched on one of them. I really don't. I had them there ready to go. But like, it's, when you're talking to a lad who has so much knowledge, you just go down these rabbit holes, and it's just so much fun and interesting, and I nearly need to I nearly need to stop with the nerves before the podcast and this 5 and 6 hour
during the show.
Sorry,
it doesn't come across during the show.
I think that starting off with no drop. I think as Irish people and part of our pub culture and part of how we are as a people, as a society. We are friendly people. We're a very social people, and if you start off a conversation by sharing a drop, an old drop, there's no one telling you to drink excessively. This is just sharing an old drop. Like, I've been talking for an hour and a half, and I've maybe had.
Yeah, you have me hammered at this stage.
Yeah. I had maybe 60 or 70 milliliters of spirits. I mean, there's no hammering going on here, but it's just the shared, it's the shared love of a spirit. It's the loosening of the tongue that it brings as well, and it's the enthusiasm as well. I think enthusiasm is extremely infectious. I mean, my neighbors here are like, they must think I'm off my game. That there's more people calling to the house here, collecting sample packs, collecting bottles of whiskey, dropping crates of whiskey, dropping slabs of this, collecting this, dropping. I must have like 6 or 8 people minimum a day just popping to the house here, just dropping stuff and then gone. All socially distant. But like, they must think I'm off my game, but like, that's when you're enthusiastic about something, you draw people in, and you create, you create this kind of community around you as well, and I am enthusiastic. I know I am, and I enjoy it, and I love it, and I like sharing it, and I help as much people as I can whenever they ask for help. I don't think I've ever said no. I don't think I've ever said no, unless you really cross me, But
no.
and it's such a good community in Ireland.
Look, I think like anything, Laurie, having that enthusiasm, but sharing that with somebody just makes it so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, keeping it to yourself is no fun, and that's why this lockdown is just horrific for people, that they can't share these moments with people, and we're all stuck in this looking at a bloody computer screen, and like I've even with the Cork Whisky Society tastings, afterwards I'll usually have a Zoom chat with some close buddies, just to keep the old chat going and the party going, and we'll share whiskey and we'll gossip and tell each other what whiskies are coming out and what we thought of this whiskey and have you tried this. And
look, it's important for people's state of mind as well to talk to other people and not be isolated. It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing. Tell me, you've had a huge range of guests. Some are have been absolutely fantastic. Some are less well known and just as fascinating, and they're the ones that really grasped me as the person you've never heard of bring you a fantastic story that's and their enthusiasm. What's been your highlight moments, other than interviewing me, of course, of your podcast series?
Jesus, that's like trying to ask you to pick your favorite child. But I'll give you a few. I'll give you a few points. So my first podcast that I did was about wood. I didn't realize this one 6 months after I did it. I went, all right, my first whiskey podcast was about wood. Joe Buckley, I contacted him just as a randomer who he hadn't known from Adam, and said, look, could I call down to the distillery? And I said, come on down, not a bother, and come on. And he smoothed it away because, with IDL, it's a big machine, it's multinational. If you want to talk to anyone from IDL, you have to go through a Dublin PR company and And Joe, in fairness to him, he didn't even throw me their way. He did it for me, and he okayed it from the corporate side. And we went down, and I hadn't a clue what I was doing. First podcast I ever did, I think, and one of the first. And I set up my studio and looked at berries and hadn't a clue what I was doing. But what an interesting chat about wood. I learned so much from that hour and a half that I spent with him, And he's been so generous since. I have a little project going with the back garden as well. I'm cladding all my back and side walls with whiskey staves. I'm making a kind of a it's really cool. The whiskey stave side and back wall, and Jer kindly donated around 400 old kind of useless staves to my project. Things like that. I mean, he's a little star bar, But even in the staves, so I was cladding the wall last summer. And I came across this little white triangle on the side of a stave, and I went, I think I know what that is. I went, that's not it. So I said, right. I went through and I went over, and I had all the staves. It was after unloading from a work van a couple of weeks before that, and I said, and I just had them all piled in the corner. And I said, right, this is the best time now to kind of stand up straight, get them weatherproof rather than sitting in water or whatever in the patio. So I started going through them individually and putting them up against the walls, standing them up. And then I found another few little white lines, And then I said, I think I know what that is. And I put it to the side and went through. Next thing I found a little circle. And I went, oh, yes, I think it is. And I went through and I found two. I found two old Powers emblems on the staves.
The circle, yeah.
Yeah, that the diamond P with it was fantastic, and I've got that now on the back wall. This old barrel from, I mean, it's probably from the 70s. An old Powers barrel, but I've got the old hand drawn white painted diamond P. But I've got now, every time I look out my sliding door in my kitchen, I can see my little white diamond P. And I found another little Y as well, from an old paddy barrel. And these little gems, that's that gets me going, those little gems.
No, I'm with you on that one. I mean, there's something so tactile and so, I don't know, intriguing about wood. I mean, I'm not a woodworker, but I do appreciate good woodwork.
I just do so many little wood projects. I love working with wood. I love learning about wood. I love
The smell of it.
I love the smell of it. I love when I cut. Do you know one of my favorite things are when I'm cutting and sizing the staves for my cladding on the wall, because I kind of, every time I get a bit of a dry period, I go back to it. When I cut down with my circular saw, into the staves, and all you do is get this blast of whiskey. It's like, you know, the heat of the circular saw in the wood, and it cuts through that half inch of soaked in whiskey, and you just get this blast of, like, it's like, you know, smelling your glass the morning after, we'll say, a very really good tasting, you know, a really good whiskey you drank the night before, and you smell the glass in the morning before you wash it. That kind of, you know, aroma, it's amazing.
You know, I don't know if you know who it is that's smoking salmon with staves. The grains from the staves. No,
but I do that myself.
Who it is? If anybody knows who's doing that, they could let me know, please. I'd be really intrigued to try that.
I've smoked a few cuts of beef right in my smoker at the back with the offcuts that I, you know, when I'm cutting and sizing the staves for the cladding. I keep all them to the side. Sorry?
I imagine it's lovely.
It is very nice. Yeah, absolutely. Oak smoked meat and fish is all the better for the whiskey soaked in, you know. Other people that I've really enjoyed, Fionnán O'Connor is a national treasure who should just be wrapped up in cotton wool and protected at all costs. And it just, every conversation he has about whiskey should be recorded and put out there, and just for us all to enjoy, because his passion and his knowledge and his research and the history that he brings to the Irish whiskey community, and soon to be Dr. O'Connor as well, if all goes well, hopefully with this
couple of years.
Hopefully, yeah. But Fionnán's a fascinating creature. He's fantastic to talk to. I really enjoyed his podcast. I look forward to every time I talk to Fionnán. He's a little treasure, in fairness, you know.
Well, look, I mean, if I ever meet Fionnán, there's nothing I don't. I've never had an occasion where I've met with Fionnán and not learned something new. And
exactly.
It could be linguistics, it could be politics, it could be American politics, it could be whiskey, it could be history.
Yeah.
It's just a treasure trove of information. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
These 148 barrels that Bowen were after distilling to his mash bills.
Yeah.
Like, I know everybody who's anybody has got a little finger in that pie, you know. I know when I heard it was Conor Ryan drew my attention to it. Conor Ryan, I believe. Anyway, Conor Ryan's involved in some capacity, and drew our attention as a society to the project being opened up to for buying of casks. And Cork Whisky Society are number one on the list, first refusal for one of those casks, and I kind of took a bit of pride in that. And just to
well, I've been very fortunate to try all the new makes of those.
Have you?
And
you're far better connected. You're far better connected than I have, because if I even get a slip for that
as well, he's which
you're lucky for that.
Is something we're blessed to have as Fionnán as a writer in the magazine.
And also the mash bills that he's after discovering over the years, that can be resurrected and will be resurrected, from modern distilleries. But these vintage, these ancient mash bills that he is after rediscovering, because no one else was looking for them, no one else found them, no one else had them. He found them. He went scouring the records. He went scouring the state libraries and all the different resources, and even a certain mash bill, old Cork mash bill that
I think Charlie Roach was involved as well in finding a couple.
That's right, Charlie Roach. Yeah, another fantastic. Charlie Roach is another little gem as well. He's a hidden little gem that he's very quiet. You know, I've reached out to Charlie a few times. I'd love to have a chat with him. I really, really would. I'd look forward to having a chat with Charlie. You know, so if you listen, Charlie, please do come on and have a chat with me, because I'd really enjoy picking your brains and just having sharing an old drop with you. But we have such great passion in the Irish whiskey industry, you know, from Eric Ryan and Fanon and Charlie Roach, and even yourself driving that magazine. I mean, the Irish Whiskey magazine that you produce is it's among the it's among the most tactile and informative and better quality magazines out there, not in Ireland, out there, you know. It's an absolute credit to you. I really, really, really look forward to it coming in the door, you know.
I appreciate that. But again,
the contributors,
it's down to the great people that write it.
That's it. Like the contributors that are available to you as well, you know, and Omar and all those lads who can contribute, you know. We've such great resources, more so than most hobbies. We'll say hobbies at the moment. To draw from it's fantastic, you know.
Yeah. Just a quick question here to the audience. If anybody has any particular questions that they'd like to put to Laurie, just fire them away there in the chat. I'm sure Laurie won't shy away from them. But Laurie, if you were sitting here in my shoes, interviewing yourself, what would you most like to be asked, and what would you least like to be asked?
I'd least like to be asked about my job, because being military and being part of the organisation, being part of the Defence Forces, you have to be very careful. You know, I don't speak on behalf of the Defence Forces, and I'd be very wary of putting anything out there as a statement on behalf, like, you know. So that's the one thing I do have to kind of be careful about.
Sure.
I'm very passionate about the Irish Defence Forces. I've a huge Irish Army collection going back to the foundation state for the Free State. You know, it's, as I said, I don't do anything I don't do anything.
I know you don't. I know you don't do anything in half measures. So
even the cap badge that I wear my beret in work is from the 1920s. I don't wear the new Stay Bright plastic cap badge that is on issue. I have an original Free State brass cap badge that I take pride in wearing, you know, because it's, you know, and it's okay to wear. It's still the same emblem, but the history and the heritage behind that cap badge, you know. So those are the kind of things that I like to, you know. It's all about quality, Sergio. It's all about quality, you know.
Yeah, and I think sometimes just knowing that there is a piece of history associated with something, and it has been in somebody else's hands. Somebody else has worn it with pride. It was made with pride. It's not a mass produced. There's something, I don't know, romantic, something just fascinating.
It just feels better. It just feels better, you know. It feels better drinking whiskey from a handmade glass from Germany that looks this beautiful, you know. I know it might be a bit pretentious, but it feels better, you know, than buying a mass produced Glencairn, you know.
Yeah. Look, I mean, glasses are. I never push one opinion or another on glasses. Each to their own. But I do like handcrafted products. Hi, Shamini.
Shamini Fairball, yeah. You were speaking about the Black Pits earlier on. So the Cork Whisky Society did a tasting before Christmas with Teeling, and we were, as far as I know, I'm sure I'll get corrected here, but as far as I know, I think we're the only people to ever have tasted Black Pits cask strength. And I organised on Twitter for Christmas just a little bit of, look, I just thought it'd be a bit of crack for people, you know, with lockdown and all that. I organised a secret whiskey Santa on Twitter, and 120 people got involved, and there was whiskey whipping all over the world. I know Shamini is a particular Teeling fan, and I know that I had the end of a bottle, because I poured the bloody whole tasting for the November tasting. I had a small little bit left of the Teeling Black Pits cask strength, and I sent it off to Shamini in Denmark. I think Shamini lives in Denmark.
Maybe I might have something to say to you now about that.
That's all right. Well, look, as you said, I could be open to correction here, but it only arrived for like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It took like 2 months to get to the post.
I sent magazines out on the 12th of December,
No way.
and people still are receiving them now.
No
And
way.
the two countries hit worst are Germany and the Netherlands.
Sorry, say that again, Sergio.
Germany and Holland.
Germany and Holland are the slowest, is it, to receive?
Been the slowest, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Like I heard over Christmas that like the reason for the backlog in the postal service was the amount of people who had COVID and the amount of people who were out of work with COVID. It wasn't the case of there was some surge in internet sales and all the rest of it. It was just literally a case of the amount of people in the postal industry that had COVID. It was working on 40% capacity of employees, you know.
Yeah. So going back to my other question, then the one that you're trying to, what would you like to ask yourself?
What would I like to ask myself? Listen, I can get passionate about whiskey all day long, but at the moment, I really think we're missing a trick with the poaching. And I'm going to be flying this flag along with Dave Mulligan and Jarlath and Brendan and Michael above in Waylock and who?
Go Nickel.
Paulie O'Greelish in Mickle. Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely think we're missing the trick of the poaching. It's there's some really great poachings out there to discover. I've started to buy more and more poachings in since Christmas, and I'm trying to find the right ones. Mickle have a great heritage edition out.
Yeah,
heritage edition poaching. It's a piece of
poaching.
poaching.
That came out of a lot of work they did with Fionn. Fionn did a lot of research on that.
I was just going to say that's a Fionn poaching. To me, that's special. You know, the fact that Fionn had a hand in that. That's special to me. So yeah, I've got a bottle after Christmas, and I've been slowly but surely just kind of trying to delve into the back of that and find the complexities there, and it's
fantastic. I think their heritage one there, the one they call the heritage, is now their default poaching.
Is it?
Yeah, that's the one they pushed. Yeah.
So it's
their, sorry, it's their main product.
So they've gone complete peated poaching.
Yeah, with oats and So that was done with craft beverages or craft beverages, craft Irish malts. Yeah.
Okay, because that's a peated poaching, like I believe as well that there's a micro distillery in the Mourne Mountains coming out with a peated poaching in the next few days, and I'm really waiting.
Cougar from Cologne.
No, that's a different project. I think there's a core range poaching coming out, and he's bringing out a peated version of his poaching.
Okay.
Very soon, and I just cannot wait because I've tried that twice in tastings, and I think he gave me a sample of that when I was up there as well. I've tried his peated poaching. It's fantastic. The 20% peated oats. It's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer. I've tried 3-year-old whiskey from Cologne, and I mean, like, the peated oats, it kind of gives this. It's like you liquidized your breakfast porridge that had a bit of honey
with a bit of smoke.
It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. The 20% peated oats is a game changer, I think, in Irish spirits. And Brendan's leading that charge at the moment. Laying down non-GI compliant peated oated distillates, and they're absolutely fantastic, and they mature so well. I mean, 3 months old whiskey, and it drinks like a 5-year-old standard whiskey. It's like the peated oat is that's the hidden gem, I think, at the moment.
I have to say, I mean, even what was it lately? The Drumshambo.
The pot still
5% oats, and that's pot still there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the Drumshambo, Ralphie's very high on that.
Yeah,
he's a big fan of the new release from Drumshambo, the pot still.
Well, look, it's a great, especially for the first release. Fantastic.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what comes out of there. What are you most excited about in terms of the future of Irish whiskey, and in terms of which particular trends? I won't say specific brands, but what particular trends are the ones to watch out for?
I think the non-compliant, non-GI compliant pot stills that many distilleries are laying down at the moment are going to be a game changer in the future. Once the technical file gets adjusted to allow these being released as peated pot stills, double distilled pot stills, etc., all these different connotations of traditional Irish whiskey, which is what it is. It's how whiskey used to be made. It's just not allowed under European or Irish law at the minute. But once those reins are loosened, and the like, we already have a massive advantage in that someone I don't know if it was by design or by mistake, but someone put down that Irish whiskey had to be matured in wood as opposed to oak, which is fantastic. I mean, it just gives huge scope. I mean, look at the Method of Madness series. I mean,
yeah.
Oh my God! Like, people are missing a trick. Like,
or the Wonder of Wood as well. There lately from Teeling.
From Teeling, that's
and
right.
The acacia woods from Bushmills and
absolutely. But the Method of Madness stuff that came out of Middleton there for the past few years, it kind of flew under the radar. I think, to, like, if someone comes up to me in my bar and says, "Is there something you'd recommend?" I usually steer them towards a Method of Madness. It goes, what are you into? Like, kind of try to get a gauge, and then, but within the Method of Madness range, there's so much to
look. I mean, there's the Hungarian one, isn't there? There's the chestnut. There's a limousine casks as well.
Absolutely, yeah. French oak.
Yeah, I don't know why. Somebody's
acacia, cherry wood. I mean, it's
yeah.
It's a massive experimentation, and it worked so well. I don't think there's a bad Method of Madness release. I don't think there's a bad one yet. Not one, and not one that's head and shoulders above most else. It's
that's something. Fan of their single grain as well. The Method of Madness single grain is phenomenal.
Absolutely, yeah. Hasn't been a bad release yet. I think there's maybe 6 or 8 different connotations of Method of Madness out there at the moment. I know they have the grain, the pot still, and the single malt, but they've had the different wood maturations within that, within those 3 styles.
Look, I think we're going to be really blown away about some of the stuff they're working on at the moment. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, those, like, the fact that the Irish Whiskey Society managed to get 1 cask of trad pot, and I can see Ian's Facebook comment up there now at the moment. But what he's got coming out in the next few weeks and months.
I don't think it's until September, though, is it?
It can't come soon enough, Serge. It can't come soon enough. But the possibilities of the single barrel trad pots that can come out of Middleton, that really gets me going. That's fantastic stuff. And I hate even talking about it. I hate the fact that I did a podcast about the Marbone Lane. But, like, the Marbone Lane bottle is going, like, it's after doubling in price in the past 6 months, doubling in price.
Well, that's another question then I wanted to touch on with you. What do you make of the huge increase in prices of whiskey over the last while?
I think that the MVR 20 was just silly. It's toilet roll. It's what happened last March or April. It's a bubble. It's not going to last. If you're selling MVR, jump on right now, because it's just silly season. But the older whiskies that we have in the Irish market, the 26-year-old Middletons, the Pearls, the German Golden Treasures, or all these different things, the older coolies, even though they're up in the mid to late 20s at the moment, the coolie expressions are out there. The older Bushmills, I mean, the best value at the moment is that Causeway Collection 1995 Malaga cask. Like that's the slowest.
I'm
That's
surprised
been the
at that,
slowest
actually.
selling Causeway Collection whiskey, and like the second that sells out in Celtic, that's just going to triple in value instantly. And it's
the other side of it is the 2008 sells at the same price on the secondary market.
Mental, crazy, and that's why this is an absolute bang for buck little treasure released last year. 13-year-old cask strength Bushmills for €75 as a core range from Ronco. Ronco knocked it out of the park. That is
there
best.
used to be an equivalent. I think it was the Irish Whiskey Museum had some 13-year-old Bushmills cask strength in part of their offering. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Where are you going to get your hands on that now? But yeah,
was that a few years ago? Was it?
Yeah, 5 or 6
what
years.
What brand was that sold under?
I think it was Irish Whiskey Museum. Bottling.
Oh,
yeah.
We have to chase a bottle of that down now.
Yeah. I think Mulligan's had one for a while in their store, but I mean you're talking 4 or 5 years ago now. So, but what else in terms of the new whiskies coming out? What are the ones that really draw your eye?
There's so many good distilleries at the moment. We're not going to see the best of Irish for another decade or two,
Yeah.
That's when we're going to see the best of Irish. I think, people, Waterford are getting a huge amount of criticism at the moment. But I mean, like, the single malt that they're producing is absolutely like they've released it at 3.5 years and then on from the 1.1s. My God, like it's some spirit,
Well, can you imagine really coming back in 6-7 years?
A 10-year-old Waterford is going to knock most scotches out of the park for quality, I know people are they're arguing the toss over, the little innuendo, the nuances of Mark Rainier's project. But all I can see is again, and I'm a huge fan of quality. All I can see is the quality coming out of there, I had Mark on the podcast a few weeks ago, and
I heard him. Yeah.
I always try and put a few whiskies to share to share a drop. Actually, I'm going to pour another drop of that West Cork because it's just calling to me. It's lovely. I always try and share some relevant drops with people, and it also provokes a bit of conversation. But I managed to get a sample of a 27-year-old Inverleven.
Okay, yeah.
And this whiskey was produced in the same stills that he has in Waterford. So this was produced in 1977 in Inverleven, which was a micro distillery, a single malt micro distillery within a larger, I can't remember the larger name of the distillery. It was a grain distillery. The names escape me, the complex. But the Inverleven distillery was a micro distillery within that, producing single malt for use in blends. Mark Rainier found out that it was closed down and went there and absolutely stripped the place for the plumbing and the stills. And then the stills were put as the most expensive garden ornaments in whiskeydom in front of Brook Laddie, with his 2 welly boots hanging out the front.
Yeah.
And then he basically requisitioned them for the Waterford project. And I thought I was doing great things here now, gone. The 27-year-old Inverleven here. This whiskey came from the 70s from your stills in Waterford. And he said, yeah, probably not. Like, wasn't supposed to be drank, that was just a mixer. Like.
Yeah.
But,
wow.
Yeah.
So would that have been one Jim McEwen did? No, would have been before Jim's time, or?
Oh yeah, probably before Jim's time. Jim back then was probably. Sorry,
he was still in Bowmore, I think.
He was no. This was from Inverleven. Sorry, this was from a Scottish distillery. It wasn't from an Islay distillery.
Oh, right, okay,
Inverleven was a glad. I won't even say it was from a mainland Scottish distillery. The stills, you know.
It wasn't Bunnahabhain, was it?
No. It wasn't. It was. I'd have to Google it there now straight away. But Inverleven was a micro distillery inside a larger complex that was producing grain, whiskey, and the single malt element was produced by this micro distillery Inverleven. That's where he got the stills from. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was great pulling out this 27-year-old Inverleven.
I'm sure he was impressed.
He wasn't at all.
It was, I found him fascinating to interview actually myself. I think. Look, whatever about terroir, whatever about his beliefs, his determination has to be admired.
If you leave the word terroir out of that, what I see is quality, and what when I went to Dalton's and when I went to the cathedral and saw the different bays where he is segregating each of the farms when the farms do come in, and I was talking to the lads in Dalton's about the grain yard, and a normal grain yard, you know, grain comes in, it gets assessed, and I'm going to butcher this now again, but a grain comes onto the weighbridge. A truck comes onto the weighbridge full of grain in the trailer.
Yeah.
Are you okay now? Your cameras are going out, are they?
Sorry, yes, please.
You're all right.
The closing time, they're saying last orders.
You should tell me you're live on the internet now, for God's sake.
Yeah, that's it. I have to have one of those recording red lights on the door.
Yeah, on air. But no, when I was in Dalton's and you go to a grain yard, and when the truck comes from the farm, drives up onto the weighbridge. But what happens next is that the weighbridge is next to the processing building, and 4 lances come out the window, and those lances go into the different parts of the truck, and 4 samples.
Is this thing down in Cappoquin near there, is it?
No, this is in, oh God, where's Dalton's?
It's near Cappoquin.
It could be. I'm not going to say it's not. It could be. It's up that direction anyway.
Yeah.
But I so when the grain trucks come in from the farm, these lances get taken in. 4 samples get taken from the different quarters of the grain truck. It gets brought into the little micro lab, and you know the moisture level and the protein levels and the this and the that, all these different levels.
Oh yeah, the moisture level and the protein levels and starch all have to be measured at that point.
Correct. Yes. So the protein can't be above, I'm going to butcher this again, I think it's 9.6 somethings, whatever that's measured in. And if it is, anyway, if any of the parameters are outside of distilling quality, it goes for animal feed, and the farmer gets, I think it's around 25% of or 50% or something very, very low.
You speak to the Irish grain growers and they'll give you those, you know.
Yes, I'm butchering the percentages now, but a farmer does all this 6 months of work or 3 months of work, the harvest, the whole shebang, gets the Daltons, and next thing Daltons goes, sorry, that's not the spec, that's going for animal feed, you're getting 30% of what you thought you were getting. So there's a very rigorous process to getting distilling grain, distilling standard grain. And Mark Rainey has got some sweet deal going with Dalton's, Downey Kilkenny, with the bays and all the rest of it, because every other bits of grain that comes in, every other truckload of grain comes in, gets dumped in the yards and piles and all the rest of it. His goes straight to the cathedral and is treated very, very separately in the different bays. And it's fantastic the level of detail he's gone to get the best quality out of the base product for his single malt whiskey, you know. And I'm sure he's got many.
In fairness, I mean, I do agree that there's full traceability of everything. That you know, the quality has yet to be determined, but all grain going into any distillery, the quality has to fall within the parameters for all the distilleries, really. You know, it's not necessarily tied down to one, but what Mark has done is he's put the traceability very tightly behind each one of those farms, which you have to take your hat off to that.
Yeah, no, his project is fascinating. I know Barry's got a new Barry Chandler's got a new series out now, and he's delving into that and talking to all the people who were involved and all the rest of it. It's a very interesting project, because what it does is it also puts Irish whiskey on the world stage, because there's no one else doing this anywhere else. There's no one doing this in the Scotch industry or the Indian industry or the American industry. He's the only person doing this on any sort of global exposure scale. And it's great the rub that Irish whiskey is getting from this,
I think, look, I think, Mark could have just as easily produced straight single malt whiskey or any style, and Irish whiskey would have got a boost anyway, because he has such a following. The Terroir project, yes, is certainly interesting, and I think that recently they've announced that it claim to have proven that it does make a difference, and I well believe it does. I mean, I don't doubt that, but in the overall picture, how big an effect is terroir is another discussion.
I think another interesting angle in Irish whiskey, or in whiskey in general, is yeasts.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of people talking about yeasts in
again, I mean, what else is left? You talk about the casks have been done. You talk about heritage grains, people have done heritage grains. Yeast, terroir. The next thing will be the water, of course, and there will be. I'm wondering. It's great that we have all these differentiators, but are we searching too hard to be different?
No, unless you're pushing the envelope. I won't even start that sentence. The passionate people who are drawn to the whiskey industry are always going to push the envelope. They're always going to look for and strive for the nuances that can be extracted from this fantastic spirit that has huge history. And whether you go down the route of, right, I'm going down the historic mash bill like Finan has gone down, or you're going to go down, right, I'm going to produce the most nuanced, fantastic flavoured barley that Mark has gone down, or you've got the likes in England, there you can buy cans of water, Larkfire water, that influence the whiskey by the water that you add to it. But I think people are missing a trick with the yeast. I mean, there's a huge, massive craft beer industry after growing the past 2 decades. All really about playing around with yeasts and fermentation times and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, well, I mean, the truth as well, Laurie, is that we don't have that many. I mean, I think there's one yeast producer, possibly 2 yeast producers in Ireland. And then of course there's the wild yeast that a lot of the distillers are looking at using.
There's not a lot of distillers. It's Brendan Carty above in Cologne using the wild yeast. It's not that many that are publicising it anyway.
Yeah.
But okay, I need to know those couple as well. Pierce Lyons' parent group, they're yes, Maltec. One of their main products is yeast.
Yeah.
And Dr. Pierce Lyons, that was one of his passions, and creating these yeasts. But what Connor and the lads in Pierce Lyons are producing is very exciting, I think, as well at the moment, because they're, I believe, going down the grain to glass route.
That's right.
Not only that, they are also going to be the producers of their own yeast. So they're a real grain to glass producer, that's going to be coming up, that aren't even going, like, they're going to have everything from 100% of the raw ingredients of their product is going to be self-produced. That's exciting, that's exciting. And not only do they have one of the most beautiful distillery experiences in the country, up in Dublin. Is it in the Liberties? I don't know.
The Liberties, yeah.
Is that what it is?
St. James's Church.
Not only do they have one of the most fantastic distillery experiences in Irish whiskey, they're also going to be one of the most authentic producers in time, when they are going to be producing their own grains, have their own yeasts, supplying their own water, the whole gamut of base products, base ingredients for their final product. It's fantastic. Like those kind of exciting projects. Just that's what gets me.
I mean, that's the biggest ingredient we're missing, is we have to wait 5, 10, 15, 20 years before we really get to appreciate what's going to come out of everything.
And that's what's exciting, though. It's going to take 10 or 20 years for all of the current distilleries to flourish. And Irish whiskey in 20 years' time, and that's why I say, the older bottlings at the moment, I think are severe. I hate fucking saying it out loud, but I think they're severely underpriced. The 26-year-old Middletons and the Pearls and all these older.
Don't be talking up the price of whiskies.
I know.
Don't be talking up the price of whiskies.
They're so undervalued. They're.
I mean, that's right. I'm looking for, in auctions I always look for the old ones, but even some of the old ones now, they've just gone stratospheric.
I still think they're undervalued, Serge.
Here's a good question here from James. Grants were experimenting with multiple yeasts in the early 2000s. It takes the brilliance of something like Mark's terroir project for someone to nail the whole plan to it for it to be meaningful. That's a question. Don't know what you think of that. I mean, the whole message about Waterford is definitely around the terroir. It's the big differentiator and the traceability. And I suppose that's something that hadn't been brought. It is contemporary. And of course, Mark brings his Bruichladdich experience with him and that. So, like I said, whatever was being produced almost would be successful. But I mean, they got Ned down there as well, did an amazing job. So
Ned Gann's another little star. He hides quietly. Do you know what Waterford do really well? Waterford use social media and the likes of you and I and non-conventional advertising.
Yeah.
Expertly. I really appreciate it. I was talking to John Barron, who owns a Sky and Ground publican in Wexford. And it's actually his son is very heavily involved in the media output from Waterford.
I think he does the photography.
Yes, and if you go to his Instagram, he sent me on a link there a couple of weeks ago. I wasn't aware of it, but he's got all these extra photographs on his Instagram page. Not that I'm on Instagram, because I actually can only access around 20% before they started throwing up login and all this. But he's got all these extra photographs on his feed of the visits to farms that he has done, their use of non-traditional media is just been fantastic. I think it's
they have great imagery. They have fantastic imagery. There's no doubt about it.
I think I've watched each of their videos on their YouTube channel at least five or 6 times each because they're so well produced. They're you always learn something from them, and they're enjoyable to watch because of the production value.
Yeah. All right. Look, if there's anything that you would really like to see happen when COVID comes to an end, what is it you're most looking forward to, and what are your plans for when it does?
I want to visit every distillery in the country. I want to load my wife and son into the car, and I want to bank favour with them and let them indulge me. And I'm going to create an All-Ireland holiday and we're going to go around and I'm going to talk to all the wild and wonderful people in the distilleries that I've been chatting to on the phone, and see them in person, and get out my little dictaphone and walk around with them and talk to them about the distillery and what's going on and what's that over there, and let me see this, what, maturation warehouse. How are you running your stills? Oh, this is your distiller. How's it going, Johnny? How are you? How are you working this? That's what I want to do. I want to visit all these places. I've opened invitations from loads of people. Maurice O'Connell, I can't wait to get down to Lakeview in Kerry and see his setup, his maturation.
Again, they're just bonding at the moment, though, really, aren't they?
They are, but he's also planning a distillery in the next 18 months or so, on site as well, But there's so many exciting projects going on around the country, just under the radar, especially in Donegal. All these little, not just Donegal though, all these little gin distilleries that are now kind of migrating to whiskey as well,
Yeah.
Using the equipment that they have and seeing the potential for future revenue and laying down whiskey. I want to talk to all them. I want to see them. I want to speak to the poaching makers. I may have an anonymous.
I think your love for poaching is definitely there. That's for sure.
I'd love to have an anonymous podcast in the near future with a traditional multi-generational poaching maker and get their take on non-traditional distillation, and just have a bit of fun there,
Yeah, I remember this Nick Ryan making a point about the Jamaican rum and the high ester yeast there. Yeah, that was something else. I remember that. All right. Look, Laurie, I've kept you long enough, even longer than your podcasts. So, look,
I've enjoyed it.
This is like I just rang you up at 11 o'clock at night, and we just chat for 2.5 hours. So I hope
that's what it's supposed to be, sir. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a chat,
There's people still here somehow. Have they nothing better to do on a Wednesday night? Obviously, they don't have an early start.
Just prattle on.
Look, Laurie, I have to say, I always love chatting to you. I know we talk a lot and at length, but you've always given me time. And I really do appreciate that. So, and your podcast is fantastic. There's something very heartwarming about it. Very relaxed and easygoing, and yet still very informative. So,
thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You've definitely got the gift of the gab, but in a nice way. In a really warm way. So, I wish you the best of luck with that, and thank you for doing us the service of doing the swap around.
I think it's officially called a swapcast at this stage.
A swapcast, exactly. Yeah. So we have to do another one in another year's time and see how we're. Is the idea to keep doing them?
Absolutely.
This is a long term.
I'm really enjoying doing them.
Yeah.
Serge, and I want to talk to people again. I want to talk to Joe Buckley again. I want to get deeper into the wood. I want to, pick his brain. I want to, I have talked to Fanon again until I deleted the bloody podcast. But anyway, that'll be redone. The story of the Marbone Lane, that's coming up. That's a really interesting
I'll be looking
story.
forward to that one in particular, actually.
That's a really interesting story.
When's the Ralphie one going on?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. That'll be one to look out for sure as well.
That's he's a fun man, and he lives very isolated in a country house down a cow lane, as he said himself, down some grass in the center lane, and he's there and he broadcasts to the world, and literally
isn't that the beauty? One of the beauties of whiskey, you can talk to somebody that you've never met before in your life. They're involved in whiskey, and through that language, through that common love, you can actually develop amazing friendships and great conversation. And you do it better than anybody, Laurie. So
not at all. Listen, dude, I've gained some of the best friends that I've had. I'm 39 years of age, 40 in April. Some of the best friends that I've gained in the past 12 months, just from talking to them on the phone.
I didn't realize you were older than me.
Stop the lights now. And people that I know that I'll still be talking in 20 years' time. Good friends, good friends. Yeah. And that's what this That's what this community attracts. It attracts passionate people. It attracts people who, good people, like, I'll say it straight out. Assholes aren't tolerated. They're weeded out fairly quickly. They're cold shouldered. They're excluded. They're left out. If you want to come in here and be the big I am, not the right place for you. This is the place for sound lads, good lads, and girls. And I'm very, very happy and proud to be part of that community. Simple as.
Yeah, I mean, it's not work. It's not work when you're enjoying yourself so much. How can it be work?
Yeah, and it's I know it's a lot of hassle and a lot of stress and a lot of work doing the podcasts, Serge. But as you well know, the benefits you get from that far outweigh any sort of efforts.
Look, the amount I've learned talking to people and the appreciation for what people do and who they are is what I mean. If I didn't enjoy it, I have enough on my hands with the magazine, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I really don't see this as work. So I just and while there's interesting characters and I'm still enjoying it, I'll still do it. But and hopefully we'll get to actually meet people though in person. That's the big.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait for the parties and the conventions and the meetups and the tastings and the this and that and the whiskey lives.
I think you're right. I think it's going to go mad. I think
it is. It's going to go mad for 12 months, and then it will find its.
It'll go more mad.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Listen, Laurie, thank you so much. You've been a gentleman. You're a fantastic credit to the whiskey community, Cork Whiskey Society, and your passion is just so infectious. So thank you very much. Thanks for some fantastic shows and for being a good friend.
Cheers, dude. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
I'm sure I'll chat to you again tomorrow.
Yeah, probably catch up tomorrow. Yeah, in case we left anything out. All right, buddy. Everybody.
Cheers, Serge.
Thanks a million. Well, a nice short podcast, and it's a good thing that I got a new battery adapter for the camera. I hope you all enjoy that. Laurie is a fantastic podcaster, and if you really want to listen to some heartfelt conversations, I think he's such a personable guy, and I'm sure he's going to do some fantastic things down there for the Cork Whiskey Society as well. So thanks for joining us. Stay safe. We've actually something lined up for Saturday, and we'll give details about that tomorrow, but it's something very different. And so at 3:00 on Saturday, if you'd like to join us, it's an exclusive, and we'll let you know what that is tomorrow. Thanks very much. Stay safe. Bye-bye.